Think about it. If Xena is still alive, chances are that Eve is too. And if she is, then I'm the dead man.
Because Eve is the bringer of twilight.
Eve is dead and you know it.
Who asked you?
Livia, don't.
I think we were looking for the irony, to play the irony that Xena's daughter grows up to be the champion of Rome when Rome and Caesar in particular had been such foes of Xena. I think we all liked the irony of that. I know we wanted a story that showed the daughter grown up because, of course, you know, she'd been the baby and then we kind of had done what we could with the baby, and now we needed a grown-up for Xena to be a mother too, you know? We needed to see that relationship, and I don't know, I thought it was a pretty smart way to fast forward 25 years so that we could get it, you know?
The ice coffins at the beginning of the show, they were made out of, I believe it was just kind of a thick plexiglass. And I'm trying to remember exactly, you know, of course the blue light and I believe it was rock salt was used. And rock salt just looks like crystallized ice. It looks just like frost. And you know, you throw the blue light in there and I was kind of surprised, certainly looking behind the monitors, like, man, I buy that, that looks cold. And then of course the way Lucy and Renee played it, you know, you certainly kind of bought it. But it was just, you know, it was just some invention Rob Gillies came up with that once again, you know, worked perfectly.
I want you to meet Xena and Gabrielle. This is Virgil.
It's a privilege to finally meet you.
Hey, apple didn't fall far from the tree.
You have a son.
Yeah. Was there anything that I tried to incorporate into Virgil that was Joxer's? Some of his mannerisms, I think, towards the later episodes. But at first, I think they wanted me to play it just more my own. And I think that was the difference between Joxer and myself, was that you know, not incorporating his traits, let them come out later on in later episodes. The biggest surprise to me, though, was when I first met Ted, was how old he was. I was like, he's playing my father? There's like 5 or 6 years difference between us, tops. It was interesting.
The Livia scream was a combination. It's not something I ever did on set. It's always done afterwards in the looping process. And what happened was, it was after I had spent my first stint of time, which was the first 3 episodes in New Zealand. So that was about 6 or 7 weeks. And I was back in LA and we were doing all of the looping for those episodes. And they said, okay, so it's time for you to make up a war cry. To which I said, what? How does one do that? I have no clue. I feel terribly underqualified. And what we decided to do is we played Lucy's, everybody calls it her yodel, this special thing she's you know, able to do. And then we also played, Hudson just has sort of this primal scream that she does. And we listened to them several times, came up with a few options, trying to combine the two to carry on with the theme of, you know, the 2 mothers. And that's what we did. My war cry ended up being this kind of scream followed by this sort of yelp thingy at the end, which was very specific. It was, you know, you hear it, you know exactly who it is, and you can also see that it has both of the women sort of incorporated into it. The funny part about it is that I've done a few personal appearances since then where they will ask me to do the scream on stage, as I'm sure they ask everybody. And, you know, so the first time I was a little embarrassed and said, okay, fine, of course I will. And I do it for this audience. It was at actually the Pasadena convention, which had thousands of people there. So I do this thing and everybody kind of laughs and, you know, they're amused by the silliness of the whole thing. And do you know that that day I had 4 different people come up to me and tell me that I did it wrong? Is that the funniest thing? I mean, considering that I created it, I hope that I would know what I'm doing. But they were adamant that I had definitely done the wrong war cry. So, you know, hey, it's the best I can do.
Woo! You are worse than a wasp.
Adrian's first fight scene with Kevin, at that point, I think, you know, Adrian had probably been down there for about a week and a half or so. And one of the first things we do, especially when we're going to be developing a character that Adrian's going to be playing, the stunties will get with her right off the bat and immediately introduce her to the swords. She'll do a few days a week out at the Wranglers riding horses, just to get her, you know, get her into the character she's going to be playing. So, you know, all the credit goes to those guys for just getting her in a very short period of time, making her look competent on a horse and with a sword. And I think she did a pretty good job. You know, she's believable. Which is certainly something that we were always afraid of, you know, because it's a big role to cast, and if it's not done properly, it can certainly fall flat on its face. But I thought she did a real good job with it. You know, she certainly had a big role to fill in there, and she did a good job.
I feel like there is no way home.
What do you mean?
I gave away one child once. And this time I wanted to do right by Eve. But I woke up and my child had been ripped from my arms.
Xena, she is alive. There's a chance you can still be in her life.
Lucy and Renee work very differently as actors, as everybody does. I mean, every actor sort of has their own path to get to where they need to. Lucy's very instinctual, at least that's, from my perspective, how I would describe it. By this point, by the time I joined the cast, she knew her character inside and out. She knew exactly what the choices would be, what she would do, and didn't have to think about it nearly that much. Renee loves to analyze. She will read and read constantly. She sort of goes into it in a much more quiet way and delves into what she thinks her character would do. And that's just kind of how they are, you know, generally as people. Renee's a little bit more reserved, while Lucy's a little bit more well, probably extroverted, maybe would be specifically what it is. But it's both works so well for their characters, but it's also interesting to work with in a great way. It's just, if they feed you in a different way. They're both equally generous in what they give you as actors, but it's just a different experience, which makes it more fun and interesting because it's always different instead of the same thing every day.
Where's my daughter, Octavius? That's her?
Livia, champion of Rome.
That's Eve.
I just don't know, you can only play that for so long, a mother against a daughter and trying to turn her good. That gets to be, I think, a little tedious to play that out too long. I think it played out about as long as there was interest in it, and then I think we had to move on. She either had to die, stay evil, or turn good, and she turned good.